us.
Okay, so it is an anticipated carryover water.
Sure, yes, if that's the appropriate, I'm sorry, the terminology isn't completely clear to me, but if that's, yes, it sounds like it's correct.
Right.
So there's basically three things going on here. They're purchasing the
Water rights.
water rights to 315 acre feet.
Correct.
In 2000, and then they have the 800
From previous year.
previous years carry forward, that you're also taking that
Right.
ownership. And then they're going to be using a small portion of their overlying right, their 315, and the remainder, which you guys are going to take, is the 283.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Right, and I don't think this board, and personally I don't think I want to approve something based on expected carryover. And that's why I asked you at the beginning, I said this is a carryover water. It may or may not be there.
I think it's already been pumped, and therefore it would be.
We're talking about water that would stay in the groundwater basin and would be transferred to you as a carryover water. I'm talking about the 283 acre feet.
Right. They've already pumped 32 acre feet this year. I don't know that it's been.
The 32 is coming off of their right.
Correct.
Before they transfer their 315 to Andrew, they've already burned up some of it. And the remainder, Andrew's trying to make sure that everybody's clear that the 283 at the bottom is what's left over of the 315 for 19.
Okay. So are we approving the sale? And that's why I asked, is it sale or transfer? I think we need to be careful about how we use this. It's a sale of water rights of 315 acre feet.
Yes.
Starting today.
Yes.
So that clarification needs to be made. So basically what he's saying, going forward, starting today, once it's approved, you own the 315 acre feet going forward,
yes,
plus any unpumped portion of that 315 for this year,
yes, sir.
plus you're releasing water that was carried over from previous year.
Exactly.
All right, so that needs to be cleared out in this resolution.
So, Katie, you're listening to all this?
I am listening to all this.
So it seems to me, let me try to summarize so that we know what's happening, and we probably do need clarification. The 315 acre feet is what their allocation is per year.
That would require,
That
you're
you're
25.
that you're buying.
Yes.
And that sale actually, although it would take place whenever this resolution is, that 315 is a 2020 water right. The 283 is what's left from 2019 water right.
Yep.
And we're being told that they've used like 32 or whatever, and they're not going to use any more, or that's the anticipated amount they're going to use in 2019. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you're buying an additional 283 of the what would be a carryover, but it's not there yet from the 219 allocation. And then from the 2016 through 2018 carryover is the 871.4 acre feet that you're buying.
Yes.
Is that a correct summary of where we're at?
That is.
So Kate, do you have the ability to correct the attachment or the resolution so that it's consistent with what we now understand the transaction is?
Yes. So do we want to do that now and be done with it, or do we want to wait for the next board meeting?
I think now that we understand it, if the board, if we have a consensus, I think we can get that done now. And now that I understand exactly what the transaction is, it's Patty and I and you who are going to have to sign it. So if we can get that done so we don't have to bring Andrew back and his attorney back, I think that is the best way we should proceed.
That sounds good.
Okay.
What if to through the resolution table, we added another line that talked about 2019 water.
Fine.
And it would have the 283,
I think that
the
would,
amount.
that would be fine, and then we should clarify the 2871.4 as a carryover, I think, from 2016 to 18.
Right.
And then the 315 would actually be the transfer of the water rights starting 2020. I believe. Would that-
Yep, right. Now, did we close the book on the production for this particular pumper for this year? Because if you, in other words, what if we come into December and then the report that they pumped more than what is being described here?
Well,
Somehow.
I would think if they made the transfer, then Craig would send them a letter to.
Say you're over pumped, you're over pumped, so they just, we're clear on the record, so they can get into that issue. All right.
And is anybody here from the land company, Copa de Oro?
Andrew Ramos, their attorney's on the phone.
Okay.
Good morning. Yes, I'm here on the phone.
Andrew, have you followed this conversation? Do you understand for your client what's occurring here now?
Yes, I do, and I concur with the final description of what staff have said, and I agree with how the transfer has been characterized.
Okay, so you understand for your client that 283 acre feet that's being transferred of 2019 water at the end of the year, if it's reported they used more than, I didn't add it, but it looks like 32 acre feet, they'd probably be getting a letter from our board telling them to pay for replacement water. Do you understand that?
I do understand.
Okay, and you're fine with us going ahead and amending the attachment on the resolution and getting it approved today?
Yes, please.
Okay. Fine.
Okay, wonderful. I appreciate you guys taking the time to stop and understand. Thank you so much for doing it. I do appreciate moving forward today.
Appreciate you clarifying.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion to accept the.
Motion made by Dennis to approve resolution number R1926 as it's going to be amended. Exhibit A will be amended by Kate as we discussed. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Leo. Is there further discussion? See no further discussion. All in favor of approving the motion or approve resolution number R1926 with the amended exhibit, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion's carried unanimously. Now we're on item B, 2016 and 17 replacement water assessment rate within and outside the AV State Water Contractors Association boundaries, and for 2018 outside the AV State Water Contractors Association boundaries.
Good morning again. I'll take this one.
Yes, please.
So included in the board packet is a brief memo, as well as resolution number R-19-27. This was presented to the advisory committee, and both the advisory committee and staff are recommending the board approve this resolution, which sets the replacement water assessment rate for 2016 and 2017, both within and outside the Antelope Valley State Water Contractor boundaries. Within the boundaries for 16 and 17, it'd be $415 per acre foot. For 2016 outside the boundaries, it'd be $888 per acre foot. For 2017 outside the boundaries, $896 per acre foot. And 2018 outside the boundaries at $914 per acre foot. And also included in the memo is just a little background on the previous resolutions and rates established by the board for 18 and 19, 18 for inside the boundary and 19 in and out. So now we have all the rates established since 2016, both inside Antelope Valley State Water Contractor boundaries and outside. I should note that we also received a letter from Alshire and Winder, who represents Phelan and Pinyon Hills. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. You should have all received a copy of that. It's essentially the same argument that they made back in April of 2019 when we presented the TELUS Financial Consulting Report, which established the 2019 rate. So we took those comments under consideration when the board adopted that rate. I don't think their letter or comments change anything at this point. We did present the financial model used in setting all these rates to the board back in April. It was also included in the 2018 annual report for public comment, for public review.
Thank you, Matt. Before we weigh in, Craig, would you weigh in on the letter from FEMA,
I looked
please?
at the letters and concur with Matt's analysis. It's an identical letter to what was sent in April, with the questions about some process questions and some substantive issues. And I think the board has more than adequately met its burden about that, vetting it at the advisory committee level, having the reports available in previous meetings in the annual report. So I think the disclosures have been more than adequate for this board to take action on this resolution today.
Very good. And this is an important issue here. If anybody from the public would like to comment on this before we take action, I would take any public comments at this time. And anybody from the internet world, if you want to comment, I would take comment at this time. Okay.
I made one quick comment. These rates are set by the 3 state water private contractors.
Correct.
So really this board, while we would be approving these rates, but the basis for those rates is what the water is being sold.
Correct.
Just clarification.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Is there a motion to approve resolution number R1927, setting the 2016-17 replacement water assessment rate?
Move.
Motion made by John.
Second.
Let me share it with you. Second by Adam. I like it.
Oh, yeah, no, I did.
Public supply.
Is there any further discussion? See no further discussion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on item E. Yes.
On these people that are pumping over and above their allocation, and we've set these fees, have we collected all the money, or have we got people out there that have a tap of $500,000, $750,000, $1 million?
We do have some outstanding invoices for replacement water assessments, for pumping outside the judgment or over their production right. We have not yet invoiced Bulletin themselves. Once we get, if the board approves this resolution, then we would invoice Bulletin themselves for their production.
So next month, can we get kind of a summary of,
Outstanding invoices and production?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so we can kind of get a picture of how much money we got floating around out there that
That
might
sounds
have to
good.
argue about some more.
And if I may just add, at one point, this board need to figure out a way how we're gonna do the replacement water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's under the admin report. We're working on that mechanism to transfer the funds from the Watermaster that we've collected for replacement water to the Valley State Water Contractors Association to actually bring water into the valley and recharge it. So that's, I think that's what you're alluding to, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I like the way those numbers are looking, but when you actually physically start buying some water, I don't know how far it'll go.
And we've had some success in the collection efforts, and we're trying to prioritize the major account receivables. And we've had Mr. Ritter's situation resolved, and Ms. Derrick's situation is getting resolved. We have a settlement agreement with her, now communicated with counsel for another couple of the parties that are largest in arrears, and focusing on those parties.
And that money doesn't go to the Watermaster, it goes to AVAC.
Actually, it goes to the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors, depending on where the replacement water is going. So
That's good. I want them to know that they can ease their pain by turning the pump off.
Okay, we voted on the motion. It's been passed, and now we're moving on to item E, water available for transfer bulletin board. Yeah.
As you know, this item was presented last month as information only to the board. Concept of establishing a transfer bulletin board that would be made public on the Watermaster website. And this is willing sellers and buyers of excess production right with carryover water. So Patty and Angel did a good job of pulling this together. This was reviewed by the advisory committee, and staff is recommending to approve the form, which you see on page 77, or that's the actual summary. That would be what's posted on the actual website. And then approval of the willing sellers and buyers on page 78 and 79 of the packet. So the first one on page 78 is those individuals that request to put their information on the bulletin board or on the website. There is a place for them to optionally put in the listing the price of the water that's either up for sale or being purchased. And then on page 79 is a form to actually withdraw their name from that form. So I think this kind of handles everything. It was reviewed by the advisory committee, and I believe they support these forms.
Okay. And what are you asking from us, just a consensus?
Yes,
vote
it's not
to-
specifically listed on the agenda, but we're asking the board to approve this process, both the forms and the summary page to be posted on the website.
Okay.
My question addressed to Craig, can we be, as a board, be assured 99.9% that with being a clearinghouse only, that we have incurred no
No
liabilities?
liability, that's why there's that underlying statement, 2 or 3 sentences that I wrote about disclaimer. We are not representing that the information on this bulletin board is correct or accurate. People have to do their own due diligence to determine that. Watermaster is only a vehicle to post this information. We are not warranting or representing the truth or accuracy of any of the comments in this form.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the, I guess, activation of the transfer bulletin board and the transfer bulletin forms as shown in item page 77, 78, and 79?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move the approval to proceed with the bulletin boards as described.
Motion made by Leo, seconded by Dennis. Any discussion?
Question.
Question? You are. Oh, please come forward and state your name and.
My name is Benny Moore, and I have land on the west side. And as regard to transfer, producer's name appears in the judgment. If you were not in the judgment due to an 1866 Rail Act, but you have water rights, what should you put as far as if you wasn't in the judgment?
Actually, that would be a legal question.
Yeah, that's what I figured you probably.
I would say I'm not a party to the judgment.
It wasn't in the judgment, it'd be due to the 1866 Railroad Act, so it's the California, I mean, it's the United States.
Either you're a party to the judgment or you aren't a party to the judgment. So
But I mean, but that doesn't give you.
if you don't have a name for the party to the judgment, but no name available.
I think this probably should go to the judge. You probably should ask Judge Carmel. He may would know about it because due to the 1866 Railroad Act, they were not in the judgment, in the adjudication.
Mr. Martin, what I, and I think our attorney would suggest, it's probably not time for us to have that discussion. That's going to be something you're going to have to seek legal advice on. If you transfer water that's available, it's going to go through our whole process. It would come up then. If it's legal to transfer, then it is. If it's not, it's not. But we're not going to have that discussion here today. And
and I don't think you're going to get a solution here today. So, Craig, anything else that we can add to that?
No, I'm happy to talk to him.
Yeah, why don't you just talk to Craig after? That'd be great. Thanks,
Perfect.
Mr. Moore.
Thank you very much.
Be interesting to learn about that, though.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Thanks.
You have all the history for you.
You've raised my curiosity, how much water are we talking about?
Anything, nobody wants to harm the aquifer, so within bounds of that, the railroad system, Union Pacific.
Why don't you come up here so people on the internet.
That's it. Craig, probably need to talk to him about this. Due to the 1866 Railroad Act, Union Pacific is in 23 states throughout the United States. They're the biggest oil producers within the United States, and exporters and what have you. And the property that I have came from them, and they also sell water and other things. The amount of water that I would be taking would probably be anything within bounds to not hurt our aquifer. And I talked to them, and they're in compliance with the state and the same thing. So, let's see if you got any more questions?
Actually, we might just put it on as an agenda item next time so we can learn more about it. So thank you, Mr. Moore, I appreciate it.
Okay, I have all the documents. They went to the Supreme Court 4 times. They were litigated, and the railroad prevailed each time in history.
Great.
So that's the right that I have.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have the motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion's carried unanimously. And now we're on our administrator's report.
I think we have one more item F.
Oh, I'm sorry. Cross that out. Item F, rules and regulations update. Kate?
So the rules and regulations are our next big priority, and we will work with admin staff and Craig to maybe come up with a schedule for how it's going to look, when we can get our sections done and how long we think the various reviews will take.
Okay. We had a discussion about that, Kate. We're wondering what the possibility is to work with staff to get a draft of this to Craig by the end of September.
Can we have October? Phyllis is gone until September 15th.
Okay.
And it would be nice for her to kind of have some more input into it.
Sure. Okay. Why don't we, for the next meeting, Kate and Matt, let's have a schedule of when it can come to Craig, schedule from Craig the time he needs, and let's start setting meeting dates so we can get final approval with a schedule as close to the end of the year or shortly thereafter as possible. Can all of you work on that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Is that good? Consensus of the board? Okay. And let's put this on for our next agenda, Patty, with actually the schedule in place at that time that we can review and discuss. Great. Thank you all. Now we're on item 9, administrator's report.
All right, just a few items. I'll take the first 2 and Pete can take the second 2. The first one, outstanding production reports. This is kind of a monthly item that we provide an update on where we're at with all of the outstanding production reports. Page 83 to 85 of the packet shows a list of producers that have not yet produced their production reports. Item B is the 2020 and 2021 admin and engineer scope of work. As you know, there's been an ad hoc committee of directors, Ariki and Atkinson formed. We've been talking to those 2 directors ad hoc about the scope of work for for admin staff as well as the engineer and legal staff for years 2020 and 2021. We should have a draft of that ready to go before the September advisory committee meeting to get their input in September. If they're in support of it, we would bring it back to the board for review at the September meeting. And then based on the approved scope of work for 2020 and 2021, we would request a fee associated with that scope of work from Todd Grunmark and have that in time for our 2020 budget. So that's all I have to report on that.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions?
Then Pete will pick the next two items.
Pete?
All right, so as Director Ariki alluded to earlier, and Matt also, there needs to be a mechanism for the purchase and replacement of water from the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors, and staff at the Antelope Valley State Water Contractors are working on that mechanism. It'll be presented at the next AV State Water Contractor Association meeting in early September. And then if it's passed, at that point, it will come to the advisory committee in their September meeting. And then potentially back to this board in the September meeting as well.
Any questions?
And item D, engineer's budget, just reporting that it's down to $7,000 remaining for the remainder of the year.
Yes.
We just said $7,000, one heartbeat's worth.
Kate, did you hear that report?
I only heard the beginning of that. I didn't hear the end of that.
Yeah, so what Peter just reported was our Watermaster engineer budget is down to $7,000 left for the end of the year. Till
Correct.
the end of the year. The only thing I would say is we know that there's going to be more work done on the rules and regulations, and maybe you and Phyllis should work with Matt and Pete on what the needs are going to be so all that can get done, if you would do that.
Yes, we'll do.
Great, thank you.
Is there pending bills that will be coming in the next few months?
Any bills from?
Payment that we sent out that have not been paid?
Oh, for assessment.
Right.
And the 7,000 that Pete referred to is just the remaining budget for Todd Groundwater.
Oh,
The
okay.
overall
All right. Thanks for
budget,
that
Yeah,
clarification.
that's not us.
the overall budget looks much better than that.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just so you know, the admin budget, we're under budget. We're about 45,000 for this time of year, so we're doing pretty good shape on the admin side. We just need to really watch the engineering budget, and if need be, we'd like to maybe bring back an amendment to revise their scope to get through the end of the year a little bit.
Great. And the assessments are coming in fine?
Yeah, doing pretty good there.
Now, Watermaster engineer report, Kate?
I don't have anything else to say that hasn't been said.
Great, thank you very much. General counsel's report?
Yeah, I've covered some of these. The meter compliance, we are identifying some of the key players. Wagas Land Company has not been responsive. I'll be recommending next month that they continue to be non-responsive after another letter of enforcement action be taken to get metering compliance. First Mutual Water Company is making efforts positively to come into compliance with metering. It's been an ongoing process, but they claim that they've installed the meters, the paperwork they need to get going on. A couple of others I've identified with staff, with Patty, that are key candidates on the metering side that will be pursuing this month and updated the board next month. That's A. B is the Derrick update. That settlement agreement has been signed already by this board. As you know, as a compromise, Ms. Thibault agreed to get a transfer of about 400 acre-feet of water. She's pursuing that. It's not been finalized yet. Want to keep this as an updated item because we're very concerned that this go forward as soon as possible. She actually, in the settlement agreement, you remember, she had an obligation to get that transfer done 15 days after it was signed. So it's already not in compliance. But it's not, I'm told on good authority, namely the staff, it's not her lack of wanting this to happen. So she's acting in good faith, so we'll keep the board updated on that. Number 3, the SCI matter, that's the intervention by Joshua Memorial Park. This has been an ongoing matter. They said they're going to bring to me the papers, the motion to intervene in the next week. We'll be stipulating to that. If there's no opposition from anybody, it will be submitted. I'm not doing any of the paperwork, so it will be submitted to the court. They'll intervene and become a party to the judgment as we agreed, that this board agreed to allow them to intervene for purposes of proving up any production right they might have. So I don't know what parties might object. We'll see, and I'll keep the board advised of what happens on the SCI Joshua Memorial Park intervention.
You know, I've got a question on Craig, and only because I had several phone calls this week, people that have family buried in that cemetery. And I drove out there yesterday. It is a mess.
Yeah.
If they don't prevail,
I wouldn't worry about that yet. They're going to intervene. I'm not aware of what the opposition might be. They've acted as promptly as they can. Their counsel has been extremely cooperative with us, and information have not been. It's just a matter of them taking the time to get the motion together and done. So hopefully it will be heard in the next 30, 45 days, and Judge Comar will approve the intervention. They'll get a production right.
what are they requesting, you know?
I don't recall.
They're requesting enough to put that,
yes,
facility back
last
into
board meeting. I should have reviewed that in the last. I think it's in the last board application. Patty, do you remember what the number is?
I think it was 177.
Okay. I have some phone calls to make after this meeting and report back to some people.
Their counsel's acting in good faith.
Very good.
He's getting it done as fast as he can. I told him again, we want to cooperate and get this done. So.
And just to remind you, at the last meeting, you did approve the replacement water, the replacement well application, so they can start drilling their new well now. You did approve that. In fact, it's on Dennis's desk if they decide.
Number D is update on numbers producing outside the judgment. I've talked about that. We've got a couple of names that we're pursuing, particularly on the account receivable list on page 19. That's how I prioritize my time. And the Zermalz's counsel has been in communication with me. He represented the Ritters, the Zermalz's, the Derricks, Tapias. So it's one-stop shopping for me. I go to the same attorney. And we're clicked off Ritter, clicked off Derrick. Hopefully that'll be finally settled by the next month. And now I'm approaching him on Zermalza. It's a large AR, $273,000, and he knows that we mean business. So I'll keep you updated on that. E, update on appeals. The Willis non-pumper class filed their opening brief. We don't particularly have a dog in that fight. I don't plan on participating in the appeal, but I wanted this board to know that the opening brief has been filed. And Mr. Tapia was defaulted in the appeal, but has now gotten relief from default and is participating again in the appellate process. So I'll keep the board informed of the relevant appeal issues as they come up. F, the conflict of interest, I already discussed at the beginning of the meeting, so I think that covers that issue. And that's all I have to report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Craig? Okay, future agenda items. I have one that I would like to have a presentation that came from the advisory committee and actually the Illinois State Water Contractors. We've been, and Adam, I think you're aware of it, Leo is, John, and Genesis, but we've been having meetings and discussions about working on a tertiary water line up 50th Street, potentially connecting the two sanitation districts or at least up through Avenue L. It originated actually from the farming community asking us to look at it. Antelope Valley State Water Contractors, we had it in our ad hoc committee and did many meetings with Phyllis, with Sanitation District. I think, Adam, you were at some, Lauren was at some. And what I'd like to do is have a presentation here and the advisory committee, get a weigh-in from this board if something like that would correct the overdraft in that area and potentially have an impact on the nitrate plume, that there is some report that's moving towards Lancaster in that area, and then see if we can get a sponsor and probably the sanitation district, if we can make that request to them to sponsor this project through program and potentially start working on funding for that. But before we do that, I think we need our Watermaster engineer to weigh in on if this would be a viable solution for those problems. And our number one priority is protecting our basin, and this seems to be a inexpensive project that could protect our basin and also help our farming community at the same time. So what I request is that that item be put on the agenda as a presentation for both advisory committee and our group for the next meeting, and then have a discussion of what our next step is. Benny Moore brought up the Railroad Act. I think what I'd like to do, Benny, is you talk to Craig about it, and if Craig believes it's something we should learn more about, that he will let staff know to put it on the agenda, and then we can learn more about it and educate the community too. If not, then we won't show up. Okay? Thanks. Any other items from any?
I thought it was treacherous today.
I think you should. Okay. Any other items? Dennis? Adam? And it is now 2 minutes after 11 o'clock, and the meeting's over. Nice job.